afternoon, everyone, and welcome to Stock Market Today. Ali Coram and Ken Shreve here with a breakdown of the action in today's market, where we did see losses across the board, but a pretty impressive comeback in a pairing of those losses in a pretty notable way, Ken.
Yeah, pretty good recovery for the stock indexes as the two-day Fed meeting got underway today. We'll take a look at three stocks that acted pretty well today. Steel producer Nucor, this is a leaderboard stock. We'll also take a look at Regeneron in the biotech space, and finally Cadence Design Systems, which I think you and Justin talked about last week, but had a nice recovery today.
Yeah, a long-term leader worth taking a look at again. But here's a look at the major indexes first. The Nasdaq Composite did gap down below its 50-day moving average, closing the day down about 1.1% after down much more in the middle of the session. And we can also take a look at an intraday chart here soon, but the S&P 500 down 0.75%, the Russell 2000 down about 0.7%, and the Dow down about 0.3%. So the Nasdaq, the hardest hit here today, back below the 50-day line, which isn't great, but at least we did see stocks close around session highs.
Yeah, and the rally is still intact. You know, it's not good to see the Nasdaq break below the 50-day as badly as it did today, but it was down 2% at one point, and now it looks like the loss is right around 1%, 1.1%. But we're still above that low right there, so the rally is intact. And I have to tell you, I think the Fed decision tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time is probably going to be a market mover one way or the other. The market often does what is least expected, so we have to, stay open to the possibility of a follow-through day and a new confirmed uptrend. But we all know there's been a lot of damage done in the market recently that could take some time to repair.
Yeah, expect the unexpected. Stay at the edge of your seat. Be flexible. We'll have to see what happens. Let's take a look at the Nasdaq 100 on an intraday chart here, Ken, because this just shows that pretty impressive comeback in the latter half of the session.
Yeah, and it looks like some pretty decent volume behind that comeback. I loved how the Nasdaq 100 just went right down to its 50-day moving average. We just looked at the composite, which kind of fell below the 50-day line, and even though it did recover off lows, the QQQs here came down to that 50-day line, closed up near its session high. Still was a lot of damage in the Nasdaq 100 today with names like Microsoft. Had a rough day, and some other tech leaders in the Nasdaq 100, but nice recovery off lows.
Okay, and then a quick look at the S&P 500 as well, which recently hit a closing high, as we noted. So now coming down to its 21-day and 10-day moving averages, which are pretty close together, still holding above that 4,600 level. And we also have the Dow down the least today, coming down to its 50-day line, finding some support, and growth stocks still getting hit hard today, off of session lows, but down about 1.5%. That is at least the IBD 50 list of leading growth stocks, Ken.
Yeah, well, there's clearly the major stock indexes might not be in a bear market or intermediate term correction, but certainly growth stocks have really come under heavy selling pressure, and this is reflected in the FFTY ETF that tracks the IBD 50 index of leading growth stocks. In good bull markets, this index can outperform materially, but when growth stocks start to pull back, it can be hit hard. So it's down about 17% off its high. So and it took out its recent low. So this is still stuck on a downtrend, and we'll look for growth stocks to start a recovery. But again, there's been a lot of technical damage done, a lot of institutional investors taking profits in these growth stocks. Some of them just need some time to consolidate, build new bases, and maybe start new uptrends.
All right, well, let's take a look at some of the compelling movers in today's session, including Nucor, a steel producer, up about 2.5% today. So trying to get back to that 120 level, which coincided with a cup with handle area, but pretty clear resistance at that 120 mark. But nice to see the stock up today in a sea of red.
Yeah, I mean the breakout really looked good initially over that 119.32 pivot, but it did. Sellers came into the stock almost immediately, came down to the 50-day moving average. That was about a 12% pullback off, or it fell 12% below the buy point, and it's been back in rally mode. So we look at this 122.06 as a new pivot. So the buy point would be 122.16. Nucor, steel producer, closed off its highs today, but still outperformed. You can see volume picked up from Monday, still below average, but this is a leaderboard stock, and we'd like to add and increase the position at some point, but we're still a little hesitant with the market in a correction, and but this one's on our radar. We'd like to increase it and have encouraged by four straight gains.
Yeah, acting well right now. Is there any concern that Nucor seems to be the lone wolf in its group, showing strength while others in the area have been faltering lately?
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of leadership right now among steel producers. That's for sure. So anytime a stock makes a nice move and it has good fundamentals and good technicals, you'd like to see at least a couple of other stocks in the group also showing relative strength. But a lot of other names. I mean, we can take a look at Steel Dynamics, STLD, in the group, and see that here's a stock that fell below its 50-day. It's finding support at the 200-day. So a lot of charts look like this. So Nucor is the best chart in the group, but I think you're right. It is the lone wolf at this point.
Well, we'll keep tabs on it, Ken. And let's also take a look at Regeneron in the biotech area. Up today, reversing higher by about 1.6%. It's had a couple of down sessions, but yesterday was able to close well off of its lows, and it's hanging in there right around that 661 buy point.
Yeah, I mean, it's not the best looking technical setup. You can see, when it formed the left side of this base and hit a low of 539, there was a lot of selling and a big gap down, and then it rallied back up, and then there were some gaps down. So this is kind of what we would call a wide and loose structure. However, I think you're right in pointing out the price action from yesterday. Remember, the Nasdaq weakened late, and Regeneron was down sharply early, and it rallied and closed all the way up near its session high. So there were buyers in the stock yesterday, even though it was down in higher volume, and the stock extended gains today, albeit in light volume. But the 661.84 pivot here looks good. It's certainly not an extended stock. Relative strength line is lagging because it's just been kind of like this long sideways mover, but can't rule out a breakout for Regeneron. It's got a very exciting pipeline, and you look at the profitability down in the left bottom of the chart here. Just great earnings and sales growth. Profitable biotech, and one of the Cadillacs in the industry.
All right. Another one to watch. And speaking of strong earnings growth, let's take a look at Cadence Design Systems, because this has very stable growth, and it's coming down to its 10-week line after a breakout of a Cub base a number of weeks ago. Flipping on over to the daily chart, you can see today's pullback to the 50-day line was an area of support for the stock.
Yeah, and this was a stock, even you look at its price action yesterday, it's just a little blip on the daily chart. It really was mostly unchanged on a very weak day for the Nasdaq. And this was, a stock that, had been holding up quite nicely, a beautiful breakout recently. And then it, was kind of trading around that 21-day moving average. The stock gapped down today, and it looked like it was going to, violently break the 50-day line. But look at that nice rally off lows. So there's still support out there for Cadence Design Systems. So I was very encouraged by the price action today.
And so with it being a long-term leader and hovering right around that 10-week line, let's see, pretty much right on the 10-week line, we say we like adding to long-term leaders when they're close to their moving averages. So if we do see a shift in market conditions soon, does it seem like this could be one for the watch list?
Oh, absolutely, and it's a good example of how a daily chart and weekly chart can offer different kind of looks, because we go back to the daily and we see a clear case of support at the 50-day moving average today, no question about it. But you swing back to the weekly, we still see the stock is down for the week and near its weekly low. So on the weekly chart, I'd like to see a little better rally off the 10-week line. The support at the 50-day was encouraging, but to me on the weekly chart here, it still looks like a test taking place, and would really like to see a nice blue up week by the end of the week and the stock up near its weekly high.
All right. Some great perspective there, Ken. Really appreciate that. And thank you all for tuning in. We will be back with more tomorrow morning on IBD Live, and we hope you join us. We have a special guest, Dan Fitzpatrick of StockMarketMentor.com. He's been on the podcast a couple of times. He will be joining us along with Arusha Pires. So we hope you tune in, investors.com/IBD Live, for that on what could be potentially a key day in the market. I'm sure there will be a lot to discuss. And we will also see you right back here tomorrow after the close. Thanks, everyone.